To thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Had I not been here, Clover Johnston would be the one who would be reporting to the Council of the Institute that there was a launch of a digitization project and it was a success. And the members of council, like myself, would say, yeah, it was successful. But having come here myself and having been warned by Brooke this morning that if we have 40 people, believe me, it is a success. Well, we catered, and she's told me that she catered for 50 people, just in case. Well, the last time I counted, there were over 60 people here. Now, you have to call this a superlative success. And I shall so report to the council. And I will back Clover when she reports to council that yes, it was indeed an extraordinary success. And let me really thank you. Let me thank, on behalf of the Institute, let me express the deep appreciation to Brooke and her team at the FIU for initiating and coordinating this important project and extending to us this warm invitation to participate in this launch. What the digitization of the journal will mean for us is, in a real, true way, a delocking of the journal from its imprisonment in time and space, you know, and releasing it to a readership and a research community that has the potential to be as wide as cyberspace itself. Digitization offers the Institute greater possibilities for fulfilling our mission. When we were founded 130 years ago, this year, the Act embodied a simple task to encourage the development of the arts, literature, and science, and to provide a library for reading and research. That library has grown into a very large one, the very largest, in fact, in the Anglophone Caribbean, with books dating back to the 17th century, with newspapers dating back to the early decades of the 19th century, with maps and other documents of very rare quality indeed. But the problem faced by our librarians and scholars is that many of these documents are deteriorating. Just a few weeks ago, I went to consult a copy of the Jamaica Gazette of 1879, only to have small crumbs of the pages breaking off into my fingers. And I really felt terribly guilty that I was contributing to the destruction of such a rare document. So this is where I think that the digitization project, Brooke, is so timely. The Jamaica Journal is one of our most cherished products. It was founded in 1967 at the suggestion, as Sandra has said, of the Most Honorable Edward Seaga, at the time a Minister of Culture in the government. But before entering politics, Seaga had spent time at the University of the West Indies carrying out anthropological fieldwork among the rural and urban folk. He was so moved by the beauty and the cosmological sophistication of the revival religion, which he studied, that he wrote a long poem titled River Muma and entered it in the festival competition, but under an assumed name. Obviously, he didn't want the poem to be judged on anything other than its merit. The poem won gold. But as there was no outlet for it to be published, he made the suggestion that the Institute start a journal that could publish the papers of scholars and other writers on Jamaican and Caribbean culture. River Muma came out in volume 3 in 1969. And so many issues since have carried articles that reveal to the intelligentsia, scholars and students, the depth, breadth, textuality, diversity, origins of Jamaican artistic and literary and scientific heritage. The journal is therefore a window into the life of the Jamaican people, not so much at the level of structure as in a social science journal, as at the level of substructure, the practices of daily life, to be sure, yes, but their underlying meaning, what the culture is and what it means to our people. It is not a specialist organ. It publishes papers written in a language understood, not, it's not a specialist organ written in language understood only by specialists. Rather, it is a journal published in a language that is understood by people whose sensibilities and intellect are cultivated and attuned to understanding and appreciating culture. It reflects on daily life, and in so doing, it provides literary snapshots, of a people in the ebb and flow of a rapidly changing cultural life. Increasingly, therefore, the journal is being used by historians and scholars, putting unavoidable pressure on the published pages, such as I did. Well, digitization solves that problem, and it makes the pages of the journal limitlessly and quite securely available for all. Had the Jamaica Gazette been digitized in 1919, 40 years after the founding of the Institute, I would have been spared my feelings of guilt. I must tell you that publishing a journal, as many of you know, is not easy. You may notice that this year marks the 40th anniversary, but there are only 32 volumes. And you're going to ask, so what has happened to the 8? Well, that's the problem of journals. If you knew about journals, you wouldn't ask such a question. The fact is that it is a struggle to publish a journal. And there are two types of problems in publishing a journal. One is a struggle to be cost effective. A journal has to pay for itself unless it has limitless subsidy. Well, when you rely on a government for subvention, I mean, this can go at any time, and therefore you have to be cost effective at least to maintain the cost of the production, at least that. That is one struggle. And the second struggle is a struggle to be relevant. Well, the question of relevance, these two, and the question of cost effectiveness are two problems that we have had to struggle with over the years. And I was reflecting on this issue, the issue, why it is that we have been having these ups and downs. And I think it has to do with the quality of leadership of the journal itself. Publishing a journal or editing a journal is not a job that you just pick somebody who has a master's or a PhD to do. It isn't. It has to be people who themselves are notable people, are noteworthy people. And if you look at the history of the journal, beginning with Alex Gradisov, the first editor, and I look at the issue that that fell into Brooks' lap this afternoon from out of heaven, was it? And you look at the quality of the people in the table of contents: John Hearn, Mervyn Morris, Louise Bennett, and all these eminent literary and cultural persons and so on, you realize that you could not have had that kind of quality unless you had somebody of the stature of Gradiusov who was able to attract that particular quality. Well, that's not our problem now, because we have an extraordinarily gifted and talented editor in the person of Kim Walcott there in the back. And after years of doubt and problems of identity which the journal faced, you know, we have finally found the right, we touched the right button and found the right solution, that you had to have somebody of the quality of Kim to carry the journal forward. But it is still a struggle because there is no money. Just this year, mid-year actually, mid-financial year, the government said, look, you got to cut again, you have to cut the budget 20%, you know. Well, I'm not saying that well, indeed, in fact, if you have to face hard-nosed decisions at times, you have to cut and cut and cut, and a journal like Jamaica Journal is therefore vulnerable. Why? Because it's not a bread and butter issue, so it is believed. Its readership may be a few thousand people out of a few million people. So what the hell, I mean, cut it, you know, and so on. And you can do that kind of arithmetic, and that's not the way you build a culture. You can't do it that way. You have to have a commitment to producing, you know, a journal, a work, itself a work of art, that feeds the spirit, that feeds the soul. They say man cannot live by bread alone. You have to nurture the spirit, and that's what the journal does. So you have to have that kind of commitment. But nonetheless, you have to face the hard-nosed reality of costs. Cost effectiveness, that's how I think digitization will help. It's a question that I ask myself. If you digitize, then you make the thing available for everybody to read, free of cost, because it's online. So then how are you going to recover costs? Well, you do, because the more people read the digitized version, the more they will want to have the real thing, and therefore will seek to subscribe to the journal. If 1,000 people in cyberspace come in contact with Jamaica Journal, and only 10 of them say they would like to have a greater interest in this material and to subscribe to this and so forth. I mean, think of not the 1,000, but think of the tens of millions of people in cyberspace, that populate cyberspace, who will come into contact and therefore expand the readership of the journal. That is how it will work. That is how we are quite confident that digitization will make the journal more meaningful to a larger body of people, and through that win some added subscriptions. So Clover, you know, you're on a right track with this digitization. Clover, where is she? She's somewhere in the audience. There she is. She is our staff member under whose portfolio the journal, the marketing of the journal falls. So I'm quite confident about that. I was even more confident this afternoon when I seduced my nephew and his family, his wife and daughter, that before dropping her off at St. Thomas University, they could visit the exhibition and the launch, stay for the launch. And when I saw the interest with which they looked and peeked at the exhibition and identified with the exhibition, and saw things that revealed to them, you know, the connection with, you know, another land and another culture. You know, I realized that the diaspora is where our first port of call for the expansion of the journal lies. And I'm confident, therefore, and Miami being, as you've said, Sandra, being the kind of Kingston, is it 21? Kingston 21 that it is, that there is here already a kind of captive community that if the journal were known to them, it would buy into it. And I do, that's why, therefore, I do happily endorse the digitization. The council of the Institute does, the whole family of the Institute, and all those who cherish the journal and have worked so hard to see it and to keep it alive would also cherish. So I am very pleased and very happy I came up this weekend. I'm glad I accepted Brooke's invitation to come to this launch. And I shall report, I won't even let Clover do it, that it was a smashing success. Let me also, before closing, add my word of thanks and congratulations to Vicky Silvera for mounting this fantastic exhibition outside. The choices of the exhibits, and even the miniature houses that she juxtaposed with the pictures from the pages of the journal. I mean, it's just fantastic. And Vicky, wherever you have qualified as a curator, whichever institute and so on, let us know so we can send all our trainees there. You know.
Actually, you would send it back to the National Library.
All right, there will.
That was the
There it is.
Go right back home.
Yes. Well, congratulations to you all, and many, many thanks. Thank you very much.
I've been given some instructions. One thing I learned early on is to do what everybody tells me to do. We're going to take a 10-minute intermission. There's lots to eat and there's lots to see in the exhibit, so if you want to get up and walk around for a few minutes before we... Yeah, don't leave. Don't leave, don't leave. There's more to come. Please don't leave. But we'll take a quick 10-minute break, and please enjoy the food and the company and the exhibit, and we'll see you back here.
We're going to move on to the book reading and the book launch. So if you can kind of work your way back. For those of you that had seats before, maybe you can trade and let some people that were standing have a seat and rest their legs.